What's good, people? Welcome back to another video on 8 Count. I'm Jack. Hope you're all doing well. In today's video, we're going to be discussing UFC 274, which went down last weekend. Charles Oliveira versus Justin Gaethje. Tomorrow I'm going to be bringing out a video talking about the aftermath of Canelo versus Bivol and what I think is going to happen next for both of them. It was a great weekend for combat sports. Started on Friday with Bellator and PFL. Then Saturday we had Canelo, Bivol and the UFC. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the upcoming content, and let's get straight into it. Man, this fight, the main event, man, I don't know what it is. I keep picking against Charles Oliveira. I know that he's a very skilled fighter, especially offensively. I do think he lacks a bit defensively, but I keep picking against him, man. He keeps picking me wrong. Well, he's proven me wrong, man, and you know, I just thought that Gaethje was the guy who was going to beat him. I thought Gaethje, heavy hands, always on the front foot. You know, takedown defense is really good. But what I didn't think about was Gaethje's striking defense itself. I thought Charles did a great job early on rocking Gaethje from the start. I felt like he was using the clinch really well. You saw he was able to pull guard at one stage from the clinch. Which is always going to be an option for Charles because of how good his ground game and his guard is. I thought that he did a great job in the clinch though, using the knees up the middle and looking for that guillotine to keep, you know, Gaethje always with an option in his head. He's either going to have to eat those knees or he's going to take the guillotine. I thought it was a really interesting fight though. And for me, I thought that Gaethje, you know, I think he would have done well to get to the second round. I think if he could have got to the second round, he would have improved a lot in the fight. I felt like Trevor Whitman for him is a big factor in most of his fights, you know. And for me, like from watching previous Gaethje fights, I feel like he gets to the corner with Whitman, and Whitman normally has to tell him to take so much off his punches because he's always swinging for the fences. When I don't think he needs to do that. I think in this fight he was loading up a lot as well. You saw the one time he threw a punch ending up falling over because he threw it so hard and he was so off balance. And I thought coming in that was going to play a factor if Gaethje was going to do that. And I think it did in the end. I think defensively Justin was poor. I don't think Oliveira was the best defensive fighter either. I thought he was getting caught a lot. And I think for both guys in the future moving forward, they're going to have to tighten up their defenses because I think if Charles doesn't, you know, it's only a matter of time before someone catches him because he can't keep getting dropped every fight and winning like he is at the moment. But credit to Charles. Obviously, he lost a bout on the scales on Friday, but he's going to be in a number one contender matchup now. And, well, he's going to be in a title fight now as the number one contender, sorry. I find it interesting who people want to see him fight. Obviously, called out McGregor. McGregor come out and said he doesn't really want to cut the weight, but I wouldn't put past McGregor jumping in for that fight. I think Islam gets a lot of credit because of, you know, I think he's got the hype from being, you know, under Khabib and his skill set. But I'm not sure which fight is probably the best one to make right now. I think if we was going off who deserves it, you probably go for Islam because of the win streak he's on. I'd still like to see him fight Dariush. I'm not too sure. I think they're going to make the Makhachev fight though, and I think it's a very interesting one. I think on the feet he's going to have a lot of problems with Charles. I think if he can get Charles down, his pressure will give Charles problems, but he's going to have to be careful because of the ground game of Charles. So I'm really interested in that. For Justin Gaethje, sorry, I think a matchup with someone like a Poirier 2 would be a crazy fun matchup. Other than that, I think you'd have to look down the lightweight rankings, probably give someone else a chance. I'm kind of not sure off the top of my head who I'd like to see him fight. You know, he's probably not going to fight Dariush. I'd be fine with either a Poirier rematch or a Mike Chandler rematch. I think both of those fights would be really fun. And I think it's interesting to see where both fighters go from here now and if their paths are going to cross again. It takes us on to the women's co-main event. What a shit show. For me, I found it hard to score. I know there's talking about them being 10-10 rounds, but I don't think they were 10-10 rounds, just because, you know, the scoring criteria, it goes from damage to odds of control and, you know, aggression and stuff like this. I felt like it was hard to score still, so I think my scoring was probably off somewhere. So I think I just ripped my scoring out because I was like, I don't even fucking know what I've got here. I think for either fighter, if they would have got the win, you could have gone, all right, fair enough. If Rose would end up winning, yeah, fair enough. But neither of them, you know, fought to win, really. I think you could probably put more blame on Rose because I think with her footwork, it was really hard for Carla to try and get in on her. But she, you know, neither fighter really deserved a title from that fight, in my opinion. It was a really disappointing one. I think it's going to be interesting now to see what happens with Rose Namajunas. I think she needs to, you know, they're talking about maybe doing Weili, Yung Zhegshek. The winner of that fight's going to get the winner of, going to get Carla Esparza in the title fight. For me, I'm not sure if that's the right fight to make right now. You know, I think either one of those is probably going to be a big favourite going in against Esparza. We'll have to wait and see, though. I really love the fight, if they could make it, between Marina Rodriguez and Rose Namajunas. I think that fight is, you know, an all-action fight. And I think it forces Rose, because of the way Rodriguez fights, to, you know, she's going to have to throw a lot more than she did in this fight, especially. But we'll move on from that because it was a pretty dead fight. Michael Chandler knocks out Tony Ferguson in the second round. I was really sad about this one. I had that old shit moment, but then I was like, oh man, you know, it really sucks for Ferguson. He's been on that bad streak, and he looked like he was not necessarily back, but he looked like he had a bit more about him in this fight. He was showing more positive signs than he has in the last 3 defeats, where he's just kind of been mauled. I thought Chandler looked okay. I didn't think he looked fantastic in the first round. Obviously, he got dropped with, I think it was a jab in the end, but it was like around the orbital bone area, and I don't know if it, you know, maybe knocked off his equilibrium or something like that, but he did look a bit shaky for a while. He managed to get Tony Ferguson down towards the end of the round, and he looked fairly dominant from there. And despite Ferguson's, despite the fact he's got a good ground game, especially off his back, where he can throw up darces, triangles, stuff like that, I didn't really feel like Chandler was ever in danger from that. Obviously, Ferguson was looking to rain down elbows from the bottom. But yeah, it was a good first round. In the second round, I thought, wow, this is going to be interesting now, because I think most people are probably going to give the first round to Ferguson. But it could be close because of the ground control time from Michael Chandler. But the second round, I was interested to see what Ferguson would do. And that front kick came out of fucking nowhere, man. And a lot of people are talking about, Ferguson's done this and that, but, that shot's going to knock out anybody at 155 pounds. No one's going to take that shot from Chandler. And I think it's probably, it's harsh to say that Ferguson's chin's gone just because of that. But I think Ferguson did show signs of, his old self and a bit more passion, let's say, in the fight. And I'd like to see him come back. I think, he's obviously going to have to take time because of being knocked out. But I think coming back, I think a lot of people are writing him off. Like, am I saying he's going to win a title in the next 2 years? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I think he can still be in really fun and entertaining fights, because I thought that he showed a real positive there. For Michael Chandler, obviously, he called out Charles, Justin, and Conor. I think the Conor fight's super fun. I think it would sell well for the UFC. I think if they wanted to do the Gaethje fight again as well, I think it's actually a really winnable fight for Chandler. I just didn't think he fought to his full potential in the first fight. I felt like maybe he got let emotions get control of him. Whereas I think it is, stylistically, I think he can give Gaethje a lot of problems with his striking, especially with the defense of Gaethje. If they was to make the Conor fight, like I said, I think it'd be huge. I'd probably favour him in that fight as well. I would like to see him fight Charles again. It's just I don't think he's probably earned it. I think he'd have to go and get another top win. And if they wanted him to go get another top win, I think the Poirier fight would be, massive and be so good, especially if they made it a 5-rounder, despite a title being on the line. I'd love to see him fight Beneil Dariush as well. I think that'd be a fun fight. So there are ways for him to get to the title, and I think, since coming from Bellator, I think his last fight was against Benson Henderson when he knocked him out. I think Chandler's been amazing for the UFC. I'm kind of surprised, he hasn't really got... I don't feel like he's got that popularity, like he's a fan favourite yet, when I think he should be. I mean, I was watching the fights again the other day. I watched them that night, and then I was watching them again in my living room, and my mum walked in and she was like watching it, and she was like, "Man, he's got nice legs." I'm like, "Bloody hell, man! It's not Magic Mike we're watching the UFC," and but I'm really surprised, man. The guy's all action, come forward, he either kills or be killed sort of attitude. Man, he deserves a high. He needs a high paycheck because the way he fights is high action, and I'm surprised more people haven't taken to him. I'm a big fan of Chandler. I can't wait to see what's next for him. Shogun against OSP. I told you this was the wrong placement for this fight. I said that the pacing was all wrong. I thought Shogun was going to get the win just because I thought he would show more grit and more will to fight. And OSP ended up getting it, but like I said, it's like OSP wasn't looking for the finish. I didn't feel like. I felt like he was more looking to. It's like sparring for him. It's not like a fight. That's how I feel about it. But good win nevertheless for OSP. Shogun, one more fight in this contract. One last hurrah, I guess you could say, and that should be fun. Randy Brown against Kels Williams. I said that this was going to be a good fight on the prelims, and it definitely delivered. I thought that Randy Brown showed what I thought was going to get him the win, in the fact that he's the more skilled fighter and that he is probably, going to be using that range and stuff to really dictate the fight. I think you could score it for Kels Williams as well. It was definitely close because, Kels Williams knocked him down twice, I think, in the fight as well. I thought Randy's defense at times was brilliant, and then other times, I think he dropped the bottle a bit, and I think he'll be disappointed with that. But other than that, I thought he put on a really good performance. Kels Williams as well, he can hold his head high. I thought he did everything he could to potentially win that fight. But yeah, it was a fun fight. It was definitely one of the better fights on the card. Then we moved to the prelims. Francisco Trinaldo against Danny Roberts, and not exactly how I thought it was going to play out. I did think Trinaldo was going to win, but I thought it'd be more of a fact that he would probably pour it on late rather than pouring it on early and all the way through the fight, because he hurt Roberts early, and it was like Roberts was winning the fight in my opinion, but then he hurt him so bad, man, and Roberts never really recovered from that shot. You could see every time he was getting touched, he was getting hurt, and it was a disappointing one for Hot Chocolate, but I mean, Francisco Trinaldo at this stage in his career still picking up some massive wins, so fair play to him. And I'm interested to see what sort of fight they're putting him next, because they always tend to put him in against these up and coming guys. Danny Roberts a bit more of an experienced guy in the UFC, I'd say, but these up and comers, and they find themselves coming unstuck quite often, so I'd be interested to see who he fights next. I think Roberts, unfortunate. I heard that he's moving back out now to the US full time, moving his family out there so he can train more. And I think that would be good for him. I think he's definitely a very skilled fighter, and I'd love to, see him maybe I'm sure he's been dedicated, but maybe now he's going to be able to have the family out and have that even more dedication to the game. I think we're going to see more improvements from him, and I think he is skilled enough to make a decent run in the UFC. We'll have to wait and see. Macy Chiasson, was it they were saying? I find her name really hard, against Norma Dumont. Shit fight this was. Another shit fight on the card. A lot of wrestling going on. It wasn't too entertaining. I mean, congrats for the win, but I don't think anyone enjoyed that too much. The fight I was most anticipated for, Brandon Royval against Matt Schnell. I didn't actually know about Matt Schnell's mother dying, and it was actually really emotional when he was like, because his mum recently died, and they were introducing him, and he said, "I love you, mum," to the camera. That was a real emotional, and it was really upsetting to see him lose because of that. But like I said, coming into the fight, two really hot prospects in terms of their ceiling. I thought Royval's ceiling's probably going to be a bit slightly higher, but I think Schnell still, despite this defeat, he still can make a run of things in the flyweight division. His skills and his striking is, stellar. And he showed he has a decent ground game as well. Of course, he got caught with the guillotine, but I thought he was doing a good job controlling Royval on the floor for a while. Royval, though, man, despite getting dropped early, he showed what he's all about, man. He's such a fun fighter. I know in the past people thought that flyweight was a boring division, but I'd say over the past 5 years that narrative is really starting to change. And Royval is part of you know, that generation coming up now at flyweight where they've got it all, whether it's the power, the speed, the engine to go, all five. And, you know, he's so good, whether it's standing or on the floor. On the floor, he's very dangerous in the scrambles. I'm a big fan of him, and I'd be really surprised now if within the next 3 years he's not champion of the flyweight division. You know, you think back to his first fight in the UFC where he was, you know, crying after the fight because he's so happy, and he says, oh, I've got to go back to work now on Monday. And to where he is now, you're seeing leaps and bounds of improvement. I think his last loss was against Brandon Moreno, where his shoulder kind of like popped out the socket on the floor, which was unfortunate. And he kind of called out Moreno for that, and he said that he was coming. And I like the energy from Raw Dog, man, because he kind of is showing a bit more on the mic than he usually does. And I think this guy could be a future star. I mean, he's got it all, man. A nickname, you know, he looks the part, he fights like a fucking warrior. And, you know, he's always in those fun fights. And I don't think... It's been a while since we've had a real star at, like, 125. I guess you could say Mighty Mouse, but even then, he wasn't, like, the biggest name draw. But I think this kid's got it all. I think he could really put it together and get a championship within 3 years. And I think he could be a star for the UFC. You know, where he goes from here, they're talking about Askarov, but I don't really feel like he needs to fight Askarov. He beat Kai France. I know they're meant to be doing Moreno versus Figueiredo 2. I know, what was it now? Figueiredo 4. Matt, why don't you put him back in with Kai France? Because Kai France just beat Askarov. He's already beat Kai France. Let them two go at it again. Winner gets the next chance at the title. I'd really like that idea. But yeah, moving on. Blagoy, Ivanov. This wasn't the greatest fight either, was it? We'll just move on from there. The early prelims, there was a couple of good performances on here. Journey Newson looked decent in the opening fight. But my highlight was Lupi, I don't know how to say her last name, Godinez, was it? They were talking about how her sisters were currently like competing in the wrestling, and she showed what, you know, her wrestling was like in this fight. She was dominant against Carnelosi. I was really impressed with her, and I think that this is another girl now in the women's strawweight division who could maybe make a run, and I think she'll be in that top 15 fairly soon. And you know, I think she's probably going to be someone in that top 7 of the UFC strawweight division. I really enjoyed her performance. Other than that, I think Tracy Cortez did a great job against Melissa Gatto. You know, showing how dominant her ground games were going now. Obviously, she was in trouble a couple of times against Gatto, but I thought she did well to come through it. Fiallo against Van Camp, man, this fight was crazy as well. Just trading blows. You know, Fiallo hurt multiple times, same as Van Camp. He's able to put him out in the first round. Very impressive. For me, the standout fight on this card probably was Brandon Royval, in my opinion, the way I look at it. That might just be because I'm a fan of his, but I thought that was a standout fight. You got the main event and the Chandler fight as well as real standouts. I think going forward now, there's a lot of stuff which is going to be happening in the UFC. I can't wait to see how some of these fighters move on from these performances, what sort of fights they get next. I'm really interested in that. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to bring out a video giving you my opinion on the Canelo versus Bivol fight. If you think you might be interested in that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have anywhere between 2 and 4 videos coming out every week discussing the fights, and then on it's Wednesday tomorrow, maybe we'll double upload tomorrow, and I'll put out my preview for the Jan Blachowicz against Alexander Rakic fight. But that's the end of the video. If you did enjoy, please leave a like, subscribe as I said already, and I'll see you next time, guys. Take care of yourselves. Peace.